Kings Island has always been known for its live entertainment, and in the 1980s, the park introduced Celebration. It was a show that became one of the park's most memorable productions. Hello, everyone. Alongside Ryan Sir, I'm Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans, because that's who we are and that's who we care about. Let's kick it off by thanking our Prestige members. Thank you, Aaron Bort, 330T, Logan Lipper, Brian Hauser, Lil Mac 21, Miss Mandy 1983, Jacob Fix, Steve Hornack, Damon Barnes, and Eric Grau. Thank you guys so much for supporting Tower Topics at the highest level. That's the Prestige level. If you want to be involved in Tower Topics, there's a link in the description. Members get early access to the content, exclusive videos, exclusive live streams, and some tiers even get some free stuff.
So Ryan, Celebration is a show at Kings Island that ran from 1982 to 1983. It's one of the most memorable shows in the park's history. People still talk about it today. I think of all the shows that I've seen at Kings Island, this one certainly ranks in the top two. It's right there, the show called Gotta Dance, which came after this and was there 1984, 1985, performed in the American Heritage Music Hall, which was later the Paramount Theater and now Kings Island Theater. And that theater was built for shows like this. I mean, it was a Broadway production all the way through. I mean, you would have thought you were on Broadway watching this show. That's how good it was, from the technical part of it, the costumes, the performers, the lighting, the sets, everything about it, was just really, really good. And it came at a time when entertainment was a focal point at Kings Island. They used this show and promoted it just as much as they would a new roller coaster. It was out there, and they had radio spots, TV spots, newspaper spots promoting, come see Celebration as much as they did come see, come ride the racer, take a ride on the Bat. So it was a big deal.
Yeah, it's funny because obviously I would not have been able to see the show, so I'm going to be learning along with the audience here. And if anybody has memories of the show, I'm going to say right now, drop them in the comments, because I'd love to hear them, because this show is absolutely legendary. But what I can speak to is, the Kings Island Theater. It's what people don't understand is that the technical ability of the theater goes well beyond the shows that are in there right now. Is it set up where it could have an orchestra pit or something like that? I feel like I've heard.
Oh yeah, they could have. Yeah, absolutely. And you can still find, like, the soundtrack is out there from 1981, 82 of this show. So if you have a chance to kind of do some, research, go to Google and just hit Celebration Kings Island Show 1981, 82, and it'll come up, and you'll be able to, hear the different, different songs and that they used in this show. Very high energy, song and dance kind of review, a mix of the contemporary hits at that time. Also some classic tunes. You had like Singing in the Rain, the Wizard of Oz song, the Yellow Brick Road, things like that were all in this. They had one of the parts of the show was promoting. The show was built around Kings Island's 10th anniversary season. So that's what they were trying to do with this. And, as I said, 1982, 83 was the show. So they would show the Bat was in there. And then they did a thing, where it was the Beast. And they tried to show just the fun in that you were having at Kings Island as part of it. But it was a celebration piece. And it just was one of those shows that you watched it. And even if you weren't a show person, you wanted to go back and you wanted to watch it again. It was the first show at Kings Island that I looked forward, to really watching in the 70s. I would watch them because that was the deal with my mom. If I was going to go ride the roller coasters and that, I had to spend some time doing what she wanted to do, which was the shows. I enjoyed them in that, but it wasn't something that I watched the same show 2 or 3 times in one day like some people do now today with that. But this was the first one, as I started going regularly to Kings Island and was there, virtually every day, especially in 1982 when this show first came out. And I made sure to watch it, 2 or 3 times a week. I didn't want to take away from my racer and beast rides as much, but it was good enough that, I would still go into the theater and watch it. And, it was special. It was one of those shows that, again, here I am, 40 something years later, and I'm still, thinking about that show. I still remember the choreography. I still remember the costumes. Still remember the different, songs. Remember people that were in it. Talking about this cast, very talented, singers and dancers. Now at that time, the people that Kings Island was attracting to do the shows, were mostly college students. Some had already graduated college. Their dreams were to perform on Broadway. Those were their aspirations. So they casted a wide net, to get the cast. They had people from Tennessee, Georgia, Pittsburgh, Chicago. I mean, all over the place. People that auditioned and were able to get casted into this show. So the talent level was off the charts good. Same the next couple of years with Gotta Dance as well. But they brought the stage to life with this show. They had the choreography very elaborate with that, vibrant costumes, the staging super impressive with that. It was unlike the simple Kings Island shows and theme park shows that you see around the country today. I mean, this one had a production value. Again, it felt very much like a Broadway style show that you see in New York.
Yeah, and my only experience with it obviously is having listened to the soundtrack, where you sent that to me earlier today, and you're like, you got to listen to it, and I did all the way through, and it was cool that they were celebrating, was it 10 years of Kings Island and 25 years of Hanna-Barbera?
Hanna-Barbera, yes, they had a Hanna-Barbera scene in it. Exactly. It it was just, like I said, very memorable.
So did they continue with that? I mean, it ran for 2 years, and so it was no longer the 10th anniversary of Kings Island. Did they just run with it the same way the next year?
They pretty much ran with the same show. Yeah. I mean, It was, and why not? I mean, they were packing a theater, for it, but it was that added value too for guests. Not everybody was riding the Beast on the Racer. Screaming Demon was right kind of next to the theater there. So those were like your marquee attractions at the time, but not everybody was a ride fan, and the company recognized that. Taft Broadcasting, they understood, that you had to have something for everyone. And you didn't have a water park either at that time. So the theaters were going to be more full for all of the shows just for that reason, because you kept them all in the main park. Sometimes, you watch shows now and, theaters are at half capacity, and that's because you've got, 15,000 people or whatever out in the water park. If you didn't have that, they'd be inside watching the show. So it wasn't that there was a lack of interest in shows as the years went on. It was that you opened up a whole new world for people to go visit at the park. And that's why sometimes the capacity wasn't what it had been in the 70s and 80s inside whether it was what's now the Kings Island Theater, the Showplace Theater. But
yeah,
it was very elaborate with the live entertainment back in those days. And I miss that.
I do too. And it's funny how, nowadays I think, I think you're hit the nail on the head as far as like, there's just more to do at Kings Island. So although there are more people in the park on a daily basis than there were in, 1978, 79 or whatever, they're dispersed out amongst more acreage, more rides, maybe even more shows in some instances. But it's funny how with shows not really being integrated into the culture of visiting Kings Island anymore. You mentioned that they had, radio spots and stuff like that. Nowadays, they would never do that. Like, when you had Ed Alonzo and stuff, you did PR campaigns and stuff, but you didn't do paid promotion.
No, there wasn't any kind of paid advertising for him at all. No TV spots, no radio spots, no newspaper ads. That had been, years since they had done that. You have to go back to like the mid 80s is when they pretty much stopped doing that. And it was after the park was sold to the Lender Group.
Yeah.
And that's when they were, cutting back on things, and the entertainment became less of a focal point at that point. And then all the eggs were put in the basket of what's new, that year, instead of spreading it around the park. And, we'd be sitting at home, and, the TV commercial would come on. Dick Van Dyke, would be doing the commercial, and he would say something about, he knows what, good entertainment looks like, and Kings Island has it. He'd say some kind of line like that, and then they would show the 4 or 5 shows at Kings Island, clips of each one, and put the logo up and everything with it. And they would say Kings Island, now open weekend, that kind of thing to start the season. So it was very much part of what they did, and you just don't see that anymore. And then in terms of, what's in the shows, I mean, what they have is good, but it's not even close to being what you had in the 70s and 80s in terms of, just what the park puts into it, with the sets and the lighting and, where they're recruiting from for the shows. You don't have the live band in every show. That was you know, that was that had to be in every show back in the 70s and 80s. You had the pop show, had a live band in the Showplace Theater. You had the country show, live band in the Showplace Theater. You had live band on the international or the bandstand. When they started putting shows in the Fest House, you had the live band. So those kind of things, they cut. They don't do it. Sometimes it feels like you're watching glorified karaoke or like a high school production or something at Kings Island. The performers, while very good, much younger, not as polished as what you saw in the 70s, 80s, early 90s. Back then, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of them were 19, 20, 21, 22, college students. Some of them graduated from college, aspirations to do this for a career. A lot of them hope to be on Broadway. Now, you have a lot of, 16, 17-year-olds. They're very talented, very good, but you don't have the polish that you had, back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, we're lucky it is where it is now, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's CCM right in our backyard, the Cincinnati Conservatory of Music. So they've gotten a lot of their, shall we say, stars out of that program there. But
Ball State used to be a big place for the talent.
They used to do recruiting at Ball State, but I don't know, either they don't do it anymore or it's not promoted anymore. But we were talking about the entertainment being integrated into the culture, the threads of Kings Island. I don't think that was completely lost in like 85. And one thing that comes to mind is I do remember in the 90s, the commercials for Kings Island. Now, to be fair, it was probably for all the Paramount parks, did use clips of shows. I distinctly remember them showing like a dude in a Star Trek uniform doing something on ice. It was like a part of the ice skating show. But to me, I feel like that was probably smart business, because you're going to get people that aren't ride people think like, oh, I need to go there. Nowadays, it seems like their commercial is always just, and it's, part of it is a victim of the fact that you got to get the stuff out early. But, in 2021, because 2020, they pulled all the marketing, but in 2021, it was, the animated POV of Orion. And it's like, what about people who don't like that?
Yeah.
So,
and back then, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, I just feel like it would be a better ticket seller to showcase more of what the park offers, even like, showing food and funnel cakes and stuff like that. But having it so ride focused, I think that is a trap that they kind of fell into. They created for themselves and they fell into it.
Well, a lot of that started during the Paramount years. And I was excited when Paramount bought the park in 92, because I thought, okay, entertainment people, the entertainment had kind of slipped a little bit under the Linder years because of budget cuts. I thought, okay, entertainment company here, the shows are going to get back on track. And instead, they started getting even cut deeper during that time. And they would take surveys from guests and, what made you come, and all those kind of, questions that are on there. And people would say the Beast, the Vortex, whatever it might have been at the time. So shows weren't scoring very high on those surveys, so it's a small sample size of people, and they're basing the decisions on that. So they didn't think about the added value, and then it started, when it was, what do we cut? Well, no one's really putting shows down as a reader coming, so let's cut that, and then in cutting that, you did cut the people who wanted to come to the park for the shows. That was their main purpose. So those people, kind of slowed down on buying season passes. It was not uncommon back in the early to mid 80s to be watching a show like Celebraton or Gotta Dance, pop show, country show in the Showplace, and having as many as 100 regulars that were there just to watch the shows on any given day during the week. And then on a Saturday or Sunday, that could be 200 of them, 250 of them there just for the shows. And once they kind of heard that back, those people, started dwindling, and you don't see too many of them anymore. Now you might have, 15 people that are what you would call the, show regulars that come 4 or 5 times a week just to watch the shows. You just don't have that 200 or 300 of them that you had back in the 70s and 80s, just because the priorities changed with the park on what they were focusing on and they wanted to cater to.
Who fell further, the Kings Island show groupies or Section 60 at the Cyclones?
Well, I would say the Section 60 group from Cincinnati Gardens, when they moved the Cyclones downtown, they started to kind of dry out a little bit. And I think the last time I went to a game, it looked like you could have called them Section 6. There were maybe 6 of them still going to the games that were part of that group from the 1990s. But
that was about 200 strong in the 90s, right?
Oh, the whole section, at Cincinnati Gardens. So you're talking 400 seats, maybe 400 or 500, people that were part of that group. And they were diehards, with that. But yeah, thanks for bringing back the memories of those people.
Yep. I went
Good people, though. Good people.
I went to the Cyclones game at last week or 2 weekends ago, maybe. And I looked for Section 60. I think there's 3 of them now.
3 of them now? Okay. Because last time I went, there was 6 of them that were there. They're not very happy with me, the whole group, when I signed on to work for the Cincinnati Mighty Ducks as the VP of Communications in 1997. Even though I had been with the Carolina Monarchs in between my Cyclone stint and the Cincinnati Mighty Ducks, I was kind of viewed as a traitor. So that group in particular, diehard Cyclones fans, staunch supporters, so not happy with me. But it took them about 20 years before they kind of finally let it go.
They didn't let it go. They all died off.
Like
I said, there's 3 of them left. They didn't quit showing up, or they weren't mad at you anymore. They quit showing up because they're 6 feet under. Okay. Totally joking. This is a segment we like to call buy or sell.
All right. So for buy or sell, we've got to cut cost. Tricks and Treats will not be held this fall. Instead, the park will focus exclusively on Haunt this year.
I could not sell that more. Haunt is at a way bigger risk than Tricks and Treats. Tricks and Treats is easier and it draws families. So
okay. You're going to sell. So you're saying no question whatsoever that we're going to have Tricks and Treats this year.
I would aggressively disagree with that statement. What about you?
I'm going to sell too, because I think that Kings Island is now always going to be about families. So in the fall, I think there's always going to be some type of daytime event for the Halloween season. So, kids deserve a Halloween party too, right? And so do the parents. They have a fun time with their kids. So I think there's always going to be something like that there. May not always be called Tricks and Treats. It's had about that kind of events, had 5, 6, 7 different kind of names and branding. But I'm selling.
I'm selling as well, but thank you for that submission. All right, let's talk about some Six Flags headline news. And this is a bit of a mouthful here. All right.
That's why you're reading it.
Hey, exactly. So Carowinds has released her 2025 operating calendar. Shorter hours on select days, or 7 p.m. closes when there once was 8 p.m. closes when they had 9 o'clock closes, and 9 o'clock closes when they had 10 o'clock closes. A couple notable days in there. Opening day is going to be March 15th. Spring break days will be April 11th through the 27th. Carolina Harbor opens on May 24th. There's a new Summerbration on select days. I'm not clear on the Summerbration thing because Kings Island called their summer season Summerbration last year. But Star Spangled Nights, July 4th and 5th. A new Viva La Fiesta celebration, which will be July 19th to the 10th. Scarowinds, September 12th through November 2nd. Tricks and Treats, September 13th through November 2nd. Oktoberfest, September 13th through November 2nd. And allegedly Winterfest, November 22nd through January 4th. Notice the lack of Carnival. So I'm guessing that is being replaced by Viva La Fiesta.
Yeah, that drew my attention that I didn't see Grand Carnival there. But this looks like it could be a fun event, though. Kind of the same kind of vibe to it, it looks like.
Yeah, the star of Carnival is, of course, the parade. You can argue the food and stuff like that. And it used to be some of the entertainment too, but the entertainment is not any different. to be fair, so it would be hard to replace it and call it a replacement if it doesn't have a parade. But Carowinds had a successful concert lineup and stuff. Like they're all about their events, and I think that they're very successful at it.
Yeah, I heard those concerts did very well last year.
Yeah. We'll have to do an episode on comparing why the concerts didn't work at Kings Island and why they did work at Carowinds. We've talked about it, but it would be nice to actually have a discussion on that to kind of round up the topic. Cool.
All right. Well, join us for a Tower Topics meetup. It's going to be on Saturday, February 8th. It will take place at the largest indoor entertainment center in the country, which is Scene 75 in Dayton, Ohio. This place has it all. Roller coaster for those looking for a credit. It has go-karts, laser tag, you got bouncing, you got the arcade, there's a bar and grill, so much more there. It's going to be a great event. It's going to be Legend, wait for it, Dairy.
Mm-hmm.
The meetup will kick off at noon, and we certainly hope to see you there.
Yeah, we certainly do. Remember, they've got one of those SBF spinning coasters, so you can get that credit if you haven't yet, and they're a good time. So February 8th, we're going to do noon. We're assuming it's 2 or 3 hours or so it'll be worth your trip, but we'd love to see as many of you there as possible. If you got a Tower Topics t-shirt, make sure you wear that so we can find you. More details.
We'll have more details. Yeah, join our Facebook group because we're going to put a lot of details there about this event.
Yeah, cool. All right. We'll be right back with the listener questions. First listener question from Susan from Westchester, Ohio. My son is 18. Has been considering applying for a job as a ride operator at Kings Island. However, I'm concerned about the environment and culture he's stepping into, especially with all the stories about pay cuts and reading online about people being promised plenty of hours, up to 40 a week, only to end up with 12 to 18 hours once the summer rolls around. He's 18, so ultimately it's his decision, but he looks up to both of you. He's a big fan of the podcast. Ryan is his favorite. He loves it when he gets all
what was that again? Read that again.
He's a big fan of the podcast. Ryan,
I got that part.
Ryan, that'll be me, is his favorite. Don't get me all worked up, Don. Because her son will love this, but he loves it when he gets all worked up. And by worked up, you mean advocating for the guests. What advice would you give him? So, Don, although I am flattered, I'm going to have to defer this question to you. I've never worked for Kings Island before, but you have. You had a cup of coffee with him.
Apply for the job. I mean, it's a great opportunity. You're 18 years old. You're going to learn so many more skills than just being a ride operator. You're going to learn things like, accountability, leadership skills, discipline, all those kind of things. I mean, it really will help you later in life if you apply to be a ride operator at Kings Island or even other positions, at the park. As far as the hours go in that, I don't know. You'd have to sit down in the interview, see what they say. If they tell you you're going to get 40 hours, 35 hours, whatever it might be, hopefully they do. We've heard from very reliable sources that they're going to operate with minimal staffing across all the different departments. That could mean not as many hours for everybody, or it could also mean we're hiring less people and giving them more. So we don't know what that means. But it's a great opportunity. You're going to really learn so much more that's going to help you later on in life. Even if you're not going to work in rides, there's other opportunities there to take a look at. And I would certainly, apply for the job, go for it, and just see what happens.
Yeah, worst case scenario, you either don't take the job, or if you're not getting the hours you want, you quit and go work somewhere else. You're not working for a law firm here. You're working for an amusement park.
That's right. The next one comes from Alexa, Loveland, Ohio. She says, does anyone even play skee ball anymore? Every time I'm at Kings Island, the lanes are as quiet as Winterfest in July. Maybe it's just time, or maybe it's time for some nostalgia with a twist. Imagine a reel or TikTok of Charlie Brown facing off against Linus in a high-stakes skee ball showdown. It could be the spark that's needed for this once popular attraction, what it needs to roll back into the spotlight.
I love skee ball. The
I
thing
do
is,
too.
the park used to have the old like PTC ones back when they
Mm-hmm.
owned skee ball, and those were awesome. But now they've got the ones that are like all like neon sign looking stuff and LED lights and all that. So it's just not the same. But I will say that back in the like Paramount days when they had the old skee ball machines, like 2/3 of them weren't operational. I remember finding that super irritating.
Yeah. Back in my day, which was the 70s and 80s,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't a visit to Kings Island if I didn't play skee ball.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Next question. Sharon from Chillicothe, Ohio. Sharon said, a couple years ago, Don, you mentioned during your presentation at the Great Ohio Coaster Club holiday party that you were planning to write a book. Do you have any updates on this project? Don, how's the book
Yes.
coming?
Yes. I have the page numbers done.
Is it going to start with one and then it's indeterminate as to what the last one is?
No, it's, I've got a lot of, the page numbers are done. Yes. But I've got a lot of it mapped out, what I'm going to talk. I was kind of inspired to do this by a guy named Dennis Wildman Walker.
Mm.
He used to work at WEBN Radio. Some may remember him from that. But I thought, Dennis did a book and did pretty well with it, just talking about his different life adventures. And he kept telling me, you have, a storied background with all these different, things that you did. You had all these different jobs. You've gone, traveling to these different places because of the jobs and that you've had. You did the racer thing. You worked in hockey with some of, got to know a lot of these most influential names in hockey. Did the theme park, job. So Dennis was, kept telling me, you got to write a book, got to write a book. So about 3 or 4 years ago, I thought, okay, I'll do that. My wife and daughter, thought it'd be a nice ideas, so down the road, grandchildren would be able to have something to look back on and get to know their grandpa, after I'd moved on and that. So I started putting some notes together and talked to a couple of people that, do publishing and that. They were very interested in what I could do with this, and thought there was definitely a market, for it. So working on it, every, couple of weeks, I put a few more, pieces to it. There's a lot of things in the book that, most people will be excited, or interested in, things that they're going to learn. There's going to be, obviously when you're writing a book, sometimes you have to mention some things that, some people might not be happy about, so it's coming along. It's coming along. It'll, I don't know, maybe 2026 at some point that I could have it ready to go.
Maybe that'll be the new family thrill attraction coming to Kings Island in 2026.
Yeah, unlike A Ride Through Time by our good friend Evan, I don't think you'll be able to find my book available at Kings Island.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah, I don't think, even though the majority of the book will be about Kings Island stuff, I don't think they would be as inclined to put my book on the shelf as they were with Evan's book.
Yeah, and Evan
which
didn't
will also
exactly
be part of the story in the book. We'll talk about those days.
Well, that'll be the sequel book, is them refusing to put your book up on the shelves of the park. But the cool part is
my departure. By the way, my everyone always keeps saying you don't talk about your departure or anything like that. That'll be in the book. That's why you got to buy the book.
Yeah.
If I shared it all now, you'd never know what was in the book. You wouldn't buy the book. You wouldn't need to. So there'll be a lot of things like that.
Is there going to be an audio book where you read it to me?
No audio. But there will be like people I worked with. I worked with some, interesting, some fascinated people, very talented people. So, between that, the interesting people and the talented ones, you know, you're obviously going to have some things in there about some people that they're going to read the book and they're not going to like that I put in there.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, you're going to find, you know, with me, it's, you know, you find that I'm always, you know, genuine and authentic what I'm talking about. So there would be nothing held back, you know, as I go through the book and talk about the different people in that I worked with, and you know, some that were like influential in my career, you know, others that you know, I partnered with them on different things to have some great successes. You know, there's a piece in there talking about Ryan, me working with you and KI Central back when we did that one. You know, we were putting in, we were going to tear down the 2 parking tolls and make a brand new one, and they'd been there since the beginning, and how that ended up being, you know, national news, you know, coast to coast coverage on what Kings Island is doing, and it was just parking tolls, you know, things like that, you know. So it's just a lot of stories like that that'll be in there.
You should let me write the foreword because I already have the first line.
You want to?
I find that Don's life is neither adorable nor predictable.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would fit. That would fit. Maybe you can do that, or a friend of mine, you know, works for the Cincinnati Reds. I think he's known me pretty much, you know, at least my entire adult life. You know, he's known me from the time I was, you know, 17 years old on. That would be another, you know, candidate to write the forward. So one of you two
I can write the afterword. Like, because how for I think Evan's book, Gary Walks wrote the foreword, and then Mike Kuntz wrote the afterword. I'll write the end, and I'll be like, I got through most of the book, and I found that Don's life was not adorable, nor was it predictable. And I requested.
No, it definitely wasn't predictable. You know, no. There's and then like the guy I'm talking about, you know, we were at the Outback Steakhouse about a month ago, and we're talking about, you know, the book, and he's asking me, "Are you going to put some?" We worked together at Eastgate Mall, different stops. He was one of those people that I took with me when I went to different places, because he knew my system, and he could help, you know, the culture. You know, one of those what I call a culture guy. He could help me develop the culture I wanted for my store when I was like a manager of these different places. So he just went with me. So he was at 3 places with me, and we had a lot of success, but nobody had more fun than us. So he wanted to know if I was going to put some of those mall pranks that we did in there. And I told him, of course, those are going to be in there. But we had some classic things that we did, and just had, we're one of the reasons that they had, you know, they put in caller ID with pizza orders. So I'll just say, leave it at that. But just so much fun. The book will be coming out. It'll be an interesting read. That's for sure.
I thought you were going to say, we're the reasons why the Forest Fair Mall is now abandoned.
No,
it was because of
not that, not that, but you know, we just had so many different things. There's one, I don't know why I'm saying this now, but there was one night they had working at Chick-fil-A at Eastgate Mall, and one of our things we had to do once a month was kind of wax the floor at night, and that would always take us till 12 or 1 in the morning. So while we're waiting for it to dry, we're just walking around the mall, and they had one of those like 4-H club things or whatever, and there's all these farm animals that are all in the cages and that. So we're talking like little miniature donkeys and goats and, you know, everything. So we decided to open the gates and let them out. So they're all roaming the mall. Or you can just imagine what the mall probably looked like the next morning, you know, when, you know, 5 or 6 o'clock as people start to come in and get ready to open the stores and that. But these, you know, they just had run of all the hallways. They didn't get hurt or anything like that. They couldn't go anywhere. I mean, they're inside the mall, but they roamed all over the hallways and did their things. And so, yeah.
Immature.
Very
hilarious,
immature.
But immature.
Very much. We put like a $20 bill on a string, and we toss it out into the middle of the mall, and we'd watch as people would go to pick it up. We pull the string, you know, pull back into the store, and that backfired on us once. And that story I won't, you know, tell what happened with that, but it did lead to me getting promoted in the company because of how I described the reason we were doing that.
It's all marketing, babe.
It was. That was my marketing brain. Hey, if we do this, we'll draw people into the store and they'll buy stuff. And then my manager at the time, who wasn't happy with us doing that little prank because she got yelled at by the corporate team. What are your employees doing? This woman called, because the kid grabbed and we took the money back from him. So I was just like, if we're gonna, be let go for just trying to find a way to bring people into the store and get them to buy, shoes and other stuff, I guess we go out with our head held high because we were trying on a very slow night with snow and everything outside to do everything we could to meet the budget for the day. And then the corporate team was like, well, a little crazy, but we like the innovation there. And then I got promoted.
Perfect.
Anyway.
Yeah. There's another question for you to read. Enough about you.
Oh, there is. I thought I read that. Okay. This is Rodney from Milford, Ohio. He said, my question is, have you heard what's on the Gold Pass early rides lineup this year?
Nope.
I have not either. I haven't even thought about it until Rodney's question.
Well, I never go to. I'm a 5 o'clocker, as I describe myself at Kings Island, but it's going to be the same. It's going to be, 1 month will be Diamondback and Mystic maybe, and then there'll be Banshee and Bat, and they'll do Planet Snoopy, a couple rides there, probably in the early season. I don't think there's going to be too many shockers.
No, I don't really, as a pass holder, I didn't find a lot of value in that for me because number one, it's 30 minutes. So if Mystic Timbers was on the list and I got in right at 9:30, by the time I walked to Mystic Timbers, got in line, a lot of times it was like 10, 12, 10, 15 before I even got on it.
Yeah.
So for me, it wasn't like I was getting extra rides or anything in doing that. So some people love it, but for me, that was not going to be something that played any kind of a role in whether or not I bought or renewed my season pass.
Yeah, I'd hate to set the precedent of, they can take away benefits and stuff, because I'm sure that there are people that do enjoy it. But for me, it's like if they didn't, they've had major changes to that program over the past 10 or 15 years, and none of it's even crossed my mind because I just don't partake in it. Cool. Let's talk about t-shirts, Don.
Power Topics t-shirts coming a wicked green. I'm wearing one now if you're watching on YouTube. It's $22, includes the shipping. If you want one, send us a direct message on our X, Tower_Topics, or you can send me an email. My personal account is donhelbig@themeparksbydon.com. Send you the QR code. Once the transaction goes through, you'll get your shirt really quick, and I think you'll love it.
You'll love it. It's a very comfortable shirt. The green is awesome.
I really like the green. I didn't think I would. We did it just as an experiment for the holiday season, but I got good feedback from those that purchased it. I asked my wife, who makes the shirts for us, I said, which one do you like better? And she said, honestly, between the blue and the green, I like the green. I think your logo pops better on that. So for the 2025 season, we're sticking with the green. Hey, wicked green.
We're sticking with the green. And we got some other ideas for merchandise and stuff. We'll discuss that in a future episode. But regardless of it, you know what? I'm Ryan Sir. That's Don Helbig. We're in the green over there. This is Tower Topics.